Hey, what's up everybody, and welcome back to another episode of News Dose, where I give you all of the latest gaming news, and we're starting off the week in a big way. Yeah, PlayStation has been very active today announcing a new PlayStation event and a few other things, though the gaming community doesn't exactly seem thrilled, and there is a question on if PlayStation is anti-consumer or not. Also, could Nintendo be preparing to bring back Zelda Ocarina of Time for the Switch? Well, based off some new information, that may just be possible, and very soon at that. So don't go anywhere just yet, and we will talk about that. Before we get into all that though, first let's go over some of the quick news, starting off with Beyond Good and Evil. Yeah, unfortunately this has nothing to do with Beyond Good and Evil 2 and its eventual release date, but instead it has been announced that there will be a new Beyond Good and Evil Netflix movie. It even has the same director behind the hit Detective Pikachu movie, Rob Letterman, so he has had success in making a game-related movie in the past. Now, whether it'll actually be good isn't an entirely different question, but I will say this. I think Beyond Good and Evil has a really interesting world with fascinating characters, so I think it does have the potential to be good if treated properly. It is interesting though because this is the second Ubisoft franchise that is being linked to Netflix right now with both Splinter Cell and now Beyond Good and Evil. So Ubisoft definitely seems to be preparing to expand on these worlds through Netflix, but as a gamer, I have to say, I would also like to see them expand on these worlds through games as well. I mean, how long has it been since we've seen a new Splinter Cell game? Still though, hopefully we get some more information on that Beyond Good and Evil sequel soon, and maybe a new Splinter Cell game as well. Either way, I am excited for these games to head over to Netflix. Moving on, Xbox announced a pretty big update to the Xbox Store that reportedly will make it much faster. In fact, the store should load twice as fast as the current store, placing it at about 2 seconds of load time. It will also have a new navigation system to make it easier to find the content you're looking for, offer more security options, and they have even made it easier to shop for backwards compatible games, which is in my opinion the best part of this update. Yes, I still do play backwards compatible games, so I see this as good news. You will finally be able to see the price of Xbox 360 and the original Xbox games on the Xbox One store without having to jump to an entirely separate UI. You can also wishlist these games, which I honestly have no idea as to why this was not a thing until now, but it's better late than never. This update will begin to roll out to Xbox insiders on August 5th and will be available to everybody sometime this fall. In other news, we got some official Resident Evil numbers, with the franchise now topping 100 million copies sold worldwide, which is insane. I certainly don't know of another horror franchise that has done even remotely as well as Resident Evil, though the Resident Evil 3 remake does not seem to be performing as well as some of the other installments in the franchise. Resident Evil 3 so far has sold 2.7 million copies in its first 3 months, with Capcom saying it was a solid performance. Yeah, Capcom did not seem to be thrilled about these numbers, which is understandable when you realize that Resident Evil 5, 6, 7, and the 2 remake have all outpaced Resident Evil 3 in the same time frame. Yes, the widely criticized Resident Evil 6 so far has been outpacing Resident Evil 3, selling 3.5 million copies in the same time frame. With that said, 2.7 million is not bad, and I would agree with Capcom, it is a nice, solid number. I personally like the Resident Evil 3 remake a lot, and I think one of the issues for Resident Evil 3 is that it had very tough competition with Final Fantasy VII Remake, releasing just 1 week after Resident Evil 3. So I do think that that could have affected sales just a bit, but overall it still seems to be selling rather well, and a big congrats to Capcom for their huge success on the Resident Evil franchise. Seriously, 100 million copies sold worldwide. That's just fantastic news. And speaking of horror games, it almost seems like Konami is preparing for a big Silent Hills announcement. It has been rumored for quite a while now that there is a Silent Hills game in development by the original Silent Hills team and PlayStation. Yes, this is a rumored PlayStation exclusive, and a notable insider, Dusk Golem, has talked about this on several occasions, but so far it has yet to be officially announced. Well, that may change soon, as Konami has opened a new Silent Hills Twitter account amidst all of these rumors. If anything, this has certainly fueled the fire, as fans are more convinced than ever that this will be announced very soon. As to where, I think everybody is kind of expecting this to be announced at a PlayStation 5 event, though when is the real question, and we will talk about that here in just a moment. With that said, I do expect a Silent Hills announcement relatively soon. Let's start talking about PlayStation though, because they've had a big day. Yes, the rumored PlayStation event for this week was in fact a thing, though it's not as big as we originally anticipated. This event will air on Thursday, August 6 at 4 p.m. Eastern New York time, but in reality, this will mostly be focusing on PlayStation 4 and PlayStation VR games, which yeah, fans are not too thrilled about that. Now, they did note that there will be some quick updates on PlayStation 5 independent and third-party games, but said that there will be no big PlayStation 5 updates. So if Silent Hills is actually a PlayStation 5 exclusive as rumored, then this likely will not be announced here, unless it's actually a PlayStation 4 game, which could be possible. I would not rule that out just yet. Those mythical prices for the PlayStation 5 console will also likely not happen here either, and that right there is a big bummer. Xbox and Sony continues this game of chicken on who announces the price first, and by this rate, we may get the price reveal a week ahead of the launch of these consoles. No, seriously, I do think that at the very least, we may get the price for Xbox Lockhart, the more affordable next-generation Xbox, at the Xbox August event. Though I have a feeling the Series X price will not be announced there, putting pressure back on Sony. This may be frustrating for fans, but they're both being very competitive about the pricing here, so I'm sure they want to get it right for a competitive advantage. With that said, this PlayStation event is certainly not the big PlayStation 5 event that was supposed to counter the Xbox Series X July event like many were claiming. And that does make me wonder if maybe there is a separate PlayStation 5 event for later in the month, or maybe it once again got pushed back because they're hoping for Xbox to announce the price first later in the month. Again, this is just very frustrating for fans, and it really makes me miss E3, but there is plenty more PlayStation news to go over here. They did clarify today that the PlayStation 4 controllers will not work with PlayStation 5 games. They will, however, work with supported PlayStation 4 backwards compatible games, but in order to play PlayStation 5 games, you will need a PlayStation 5 DualSense controller. This is the complete opposite of what Xbox is doing, and every Xbox One controller will reportedly work with the Xbox Series X and their games, which kind of paints PlayStation in a bad light. It really does make PlayStation look anti-consumer, whether that is true or not. Now, I do know that the DualSense controller has a few more features than the PlayStation 4 controller. For example, the DualSense has adaptive triggers, which apparently is surprisingly impressive, and it does have a few other features, but at the end of the day, does these features merit a reason to exclude PlayStation 4 controllers from working at all with PlayStation 5 games? And that is a good question. I think in some instances, that would make sense, if a game is taking advantage of those features in a meaningful way at least. Let me explain that a different way. Some Nintendo Switch games need motion support. As an example, Super Mario Party needs you to use first-party Joy-Con controllers because that game uses those controllers' features. However, you still can use third-party controllers on the Switch that does not have motion support. Those controllers are just limited to what games they can play. So I do have to ask myself, why can PlayStation not do the same thing? Why can't PlayStation 4 controllers work on games that don't take advantage of the DualSense features in a meaningful way? I mean, yeah, sure, the adaptive triggers may be cool and everything, but are they necessary to play a game? I'm not really so sure about that. So if you've bought some limited edition PlayStation 4 controller, or even a highly expensive customized controller, you will not be able to take these to the PlayStation 5 for newer games. Now, you can use PlayStation 4 fight sticks and things like that, so I mean, there is at least that. You will also not be able to use these controllers for local co-op games, which means you will have to buy new PlayStation 5 controllers. Yes, this is unfortunate, but maybe it does allow publishers to take advantage of these features in a more meaningful way. Again though, I think it would make more sense to allow developers to choose what controllers a game will support. Now we do need to remember this generally has been how next generation platforms work, where you just move onto the next controller. I think what's happening here is that Xbox is just changing things and they're trying to knock down some of these barriers, and it does put Sony in a weird situation. With that said though, this was not the only announcement made by Sony today that can be viewed as anti-consumer. And I'm not trying to be harsh on PlayStation here, but I'm really not a big fan of these type of deals, and let me explain. So PlayStation and Square Enix announced today that Spider-Man for the new Avengers game will be exclusive to PlayStation consoles. Yes, and an entire character will be locked to the PlayStation platform, and this is just so unfortunate for one of the most beloved and well-known mascots in the entire world. This is just my opinion, but I have never liked making exclusive content for a third-party game on one platform. I don't like timed exclusives either, and I've said that in the past on this channel. I don't like when PlayStation does it, I don't like when Xbox does it, and I don't like it when anybody does this type of thing. If you're going to make a multi-platform game, make the content equal for all platforms instead of locking content to one specific platform to get a few extra sales. I get it, it's a business, but as a consumer, I don't think it's right. Maybe you feel different than I do though, and if you do, let me know in the comments below. On to our last topic though, Zelda Ocarina of Time made the news. Yes, Ocarina of Time got a new trademark. This of course has led to a ton of speculation on Ocarina of Time possibly coming over to the Switch. This is a trademark, not a renewal, which is very interesting because what is this trademark being used for? Well, that's the thing. Zelda's 35th anniversary is in 2021, so is Nintendo planning on doing something with Ocarina of Time? I mean, if you look at this year, and even though it has still not officially been announced, it looks like Nintendo will be doing a bunch of remastered 3D Mario games for the Mario 35th anniversary. And when you think of Nintendo the platform, what are the first games you think about? For many fans, they would think about Mario and Zelda. So wouldn't it make sense for Nintendo to do something for Zelda's 35th anniversary as well? Maybe Ocarina of Time could get a Nintendo Switch port, and hey, don't stop there either. Bring over Majora's Mask, Twilight Princess, and whatever other Zelda game you want to as well. Just bring in an entire Zelda collection to the Switch. However, with that said, this is purely just speculation and certainly is no confirmation that they're doing anything with Ocarina of Time. We do have to keep in mind that Nintendo makes a lot of merchandise, and this very well could just end up being some type of merchandise. In fact, we have seen plenty of Mario 35th anniversary merchandise this year, such as the Mario Lego set. They very well could do something similar with Zelda, so we can't rule that out either, but I will ask you, would you buy an Ocarina of Time remaster for the Switch, or better yet, a classic Zelda collection for the Nintendo Switch? Let me know in the comments below. Anyways though, that's it for this episode, but if you liked the video, don't forget to hit the bell notification and subscribe button for more content just like this. Also, if you would like to support the channel through Patreon, thank you for making this channel possible. Peace out.